Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Columbus of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three Martinis coming up.
And welcome to the Monday edition of the Three Martini Lunch. We're starting the week off with all good martinis. Some listeners might say, well, that's just because both their teams won yesterday, and that only happens about once every half a century. You're not entirely wrong. We are in good moods today. The teams not only won, but they won against fairly reputable competition. They were both at home. They're both probably not going to make the playoffs, but at least there's a glimmer to go into the next week with, right, Jim?
Look, as far as I'm concerned, the Jets can win out. They can go 9-8. Aaron Rodgers can come back, and everything. We can win the Super Bowl this year. Hope lives until it is crushed, and we've been a lot of crushing of hope lately. But just kind of, and yes, this blows our opportunity to tank for the really high draft choice. But you know what? Wins and good feelings come, and Jets offensive touchdowns come so rarely. You just really got to celebrate it when they come. Kind of like Hanukkah and Christmas. Just celebrate them when they arrive.
All right, let's get to our first of three good martinis today. And Jim, as we said when he got elected, we have no idea what's coming. And it could be a bumpy ride. It's going to be an interesting ride for sure. As I said to you right before we started, it's kind of like taking Russian history in college. You have no idea what anybody's going to do, but it's not going to be boring. And that's the situation with Javier Milei in Argentina. It wasn't that long ago. We talked about him getting elected president. Well, yesterday was Inauguration Day. And he did not waste any time. Usually you hear politicians, on day one, I'm doing this, this, and this. And of course, all they do is sign a couple of perfunctory executive orders, go to the inaugural balls, do the parade, and then they get to work the next day. But Javier Milei, not following that pattern. He has eliminated 12 out of the 21 ministries of government on day one. And he said he was going to do this. Remember his chainsaw approach to government? Well, he previewed some of the departments he was going to get rid of not long ago.
Ministerio de Turismo y Deporte, afuera. Ministerio de Cultura, afuera. Ministerio de Ambiente y Desarrollo Sostenible, afuera.
Afuera means out, in case you were wondering.
Afuera. Ministerio de Obras Públicas, afuera.
So that includes tourism and sports, culture, environment and sustainable development, women, gender and diversity, public works, science, tech and innovation, labor, employment and social security, education, transportation, health, and social development. Now, he says his approach to helping the economy, which has runaway inflation and so forth, is there's going to be a culture shock. And so might take a while for things to get on the right track, which I think is probably a good warning to give, given how different things are going to look compared to the socialists. But Jim, he's making good on the promises. He's shrinking government, and we're just kind of sitting here eating the popcorn. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, look, I won't pretend to be an expert on South American politics or Latin American politics. But, look, from afar, it seems pretty clear that very often elections turn into a competition of which brand of populism do you want. Always blaming outsiders, always blaming the elites and saying, put me in charge and give me more power and I will bring money back to the people. And then they get in power and they just keep doing more of the same, that they themselves end up, raising taxes, expanding the size of government, handing out jobs to their allies, and giving you more of the same, everything they ran against the previous guy. Look, with Javier Milei, we're going to get something different. It's going to be, it could be very painful. He's already saying, people, brace yourselves. There's going to be economic shocks. We're going to cut spending. A whole bunch of government spending that you folks might be used to seeing out there is not going to be out there the way it used to. And by the way, this is kind of the playbook you have to run. If you're going to have economic changes that are going to have pain, you want them to do them as early as possible. So you give them as much time to work, and that hopefully the next time you face the voters, the economy is in a better place. The painful part of the changes have already been enacted. You're already starting to see the benefits. And by that point, the electorate is happier with you. Yeah, we can't guarantee there's going to be success here, but it's finally a different approach from policies that I think it's safe to say have failed Argentina. And let's just also note that in attendance at his inauguration, no less than Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, I believe Javier, didn't he say he was converting to Judaism?
He is Jewish, I believe, yes.
Oh, he went, okay, because I thought he was actually not born Jewish, and he was converting.
Oh, maybe not. But,
and look, if you think there's lots of painful cuts going on to the Argentinian government.
Oh, gosh.
As I understand it, it's a symbolic drop of blood. But nonetheless, this is a guy who stands by his principles and is willing to sacrifice to go through the changes that he feels need to be made, so no one else should be complaining. No, but he gave a menorah to Zelensky. He is like probably the most like effusively pro-Israeli, pro-Jewish, anti-Semitism leader you've seen in a long time. I think it's just a demonstration that Milei, like, he really doesn't do anything halfway. And he's, at a time like this, it's just really good to see. And when Zelensky gets out of the country to see you, it generally is a sign that this is a big deal. So good luck, Milei. We're pulling for you. We want to see a better future for Argentinians and for everybody. And who knows? Maybe he's got the magic touch. We'll have to wait and see.
So what did he keep? Human capital, that ministry, infrastructure, economy, justice, security, defense, exterior, and interior. So if you got both the exterior and the interior, you've pretty much got it covered, right, Jim? So we'll see what happens here.
He eliminated the department of right between the middle.
All right, let's talk about our great sponsor for today. In fact, we've got multiple great sponsors today. Let's start with 4 Patriots, makers of many fine products. You know about the Patriot Power Generator 2000X, but don't forget about those best-selling survival food kits. We got a dusting of snow here in the Northern Virginia area overnight, and so people are freaking out. But in other parts of the country, you're going to get real snow in real amounts that might make it hard to get to the store, or there could be supply chain issues. You just don't know. So have some meals on hand. These best-selling survival food kits are delicious tasting. They include real meat and vegetables. If you store them right, they last about 25 years, so they can stay in storage for a long time. They're perfect for taking on camping trips or picnics, but they're best in an emergency. If the power is out, all you need to do is boil water, simmer, serve, and enjoy hot meals. Visit 4patriots.com/martini to see this week's discounts and deals before they are gone, and get free shipping on orders over $97. Save more and get peace of mind now by going to the number 4patriots.com/martini. That's 4patriots.com/martini. All right, Jim, on to our second good martini now. And the voters in Houston have some common sense, we're happy to report. I don't know a thing about John Whitmire, other than that he's going to be the next mayor of Houston, and that he was the top vote getter in the initial vote last month. The other person to advance to this weekend's runoff was Sheila Jackson Lee, the longtime congresswoman from Texas, who, as we have learned recently, or at least been reminded recently, is an absolute tyrant to her staff. She's very radical on a lot of different issues. I remember when she was very frustrated that the Republicans controlled Congress during the Obama administration, or at least part of it, and she just wanted Barack Obama to just do everything by executive order and just Congress isn't going to go along. We're just going to do it that way. But she's generally quite belligerent, and she's gotten crushed in this runoff, 64% to 36%, so nearly losing by 30 points. The bad news for the rest of us here in Washington is that she'll stay in the House, and if she runs again, she'll probably win pretty easily in a far left-leaning district. But hey, Houston voters, at least you got a chance for the next 4 years.
Houston, for once, we don't have a problem. I would point out, by the way, that if you feel like you've been hearing about Sheila Jackson Lee saying crazy things for a really long time and berating her staff and just generally being everything you don't want to see in a congresswoman, she's 73. So she's been around for a long time. She's been serving since 1995. And, really nothing to recommend there. And so, look, it's not that this podcast made an endorsement, but it was safe to assume that the 3 Martini Lunch enthusiastically endorsed John Whitmire because of his exceptional quality of not being Sheila Jackson Lee. And there are certain people in this world who are just notorious for bad behavior, notorious for treating people badly. I noticed, by the way, that Whitmire in his victory speech said, "People want to work for me because we respect people. We don't bully people. My family taught me to treat people the way you want to be treated, and that works wherever you are, regardless of what community you're visiting with. Treat these individuals like you want to be treated." Do you think he's trying to draw a signal there? Do you think he's trying to communicate something about the way Sheila Jackson Lee treats people? And so, look, I don't know if she was ever a favorite for this race, but she made, the final 2. Certainly had plenty of name recognition. Certainly is, seemingly impossible to dislodge from that congressional seat. And you just don't want to see really infamous people get rewarded. If people who demonstrate bad behavior get rewarded, then you get more of it. People think that it works. People think that that's actually what you want to do. So I salute you, John Whitmire, on not being it. Also, I think it's a good attitude to say you aren't going to treat people the way you want to be treated. And hopefully better days are ahead for Houston. I'm not counting on it, but, heavily Democratic city in a deep red state, but we will see how things shake out. But you could argue, considering the state of the mayoralities of some other big cities in the country, really a bad mayor can take a bad situation and make it much, much worse. Hopefully Whitmire is a step in the right direction for that city.
Yeah, I don't know anything about John Whitmire. He's a Democratic state senator, so I'm guessing he's probably been opposing most of the Greg Abbott agenda. So I'm not expecting a lot. I see him as kind of the Paul Vallis figure. Remember the Chicago mayoral election earlier this year? The least bad option of those on the ballot when we got rid of Lori Lightfoot, but then the voters went with Brandon Johnson, which could potentially be making things worse. So I don't know what to expect from John Whitmire. What I do know is that Sheila Jackson Lee was enthusiastically endorsed by Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, and Hakeem Jeffries. So if they've got a little bit of egg on their face, that's okay by me. Also, yeah, Sheila Jackson Lee's been around a long time. She was on the Democratic side of the Clinton impeachment committee a quarter century ago, one of the junior members around at that time. But she's been on Capitol Hill for a very long time. So we'll find out if Houston improves. But I think they did dodge a bullet here, because Sheila Jackson Lee's approach as an executive would be pretty frightening given what we know of her as a individual member of Congress. All right, let's talk about our next great sponsor, a brand new sponsor, in fact, Provia. So if you are one of the millions of American men or women of any age dealing with premature hair thinning and hair loss, there's actually a real solution that delivers on its promise without the harsh side effects or unwanted chemicals and no need for a prescription. It's called Provia, and new customers can save more than 50% plus free shipping on Provia's introductory package at proviahair.com/martini.
Provia supports healthy scalp circulation, delivers nourishing nutrients, and healthy hair follicle anchoring, all to your scalp. It's effective for men and women of any age, and it's safe on colored hair, treated hair, or any kind of styled hair.
You might have your father or grandfather's hair genetics, but you don't have the options they had. You have better options than they had years ago. So don't wait. Order now and save an extra 10% off just in time for the holidays at proviahair.com/martini. That's PROVIA hair.com/martini. All right, Jim, on to our final martini now. It starts out as crazy and then ends much better. It's part of your morning jolt today in talking about radicalism on campus. But a professor of political science at Cal Berkeley, of all places, a guy named Ron Hassner, decided to survey his students after seeing this chant going on campus after campus, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And so he wanted to know, do the students actually know what river and what sea is meant by that? So he hired a firm to poll 250 students from a variety of backgrounds, so not a massive sample. Most said they supported the chant, some enthusiastically so, nearly 33%, and others to a lesser extent, a little more than 53%. So you put them together, that's about 86% of students thinking they support this, but only 47% of the students who embraced the slogan were able to name the river and the sea. Some of the alternative answers were the Nile and the Euphrates, the Caribbean, Jim, the Dead Sea, which is not a river or a sea, and the Atlantic Ocean. Less than a quarter of these students knew who Yasser Arafat was, which is not entirely surprising since he's been dead for almost 2 decades. 12 of them, or more than 10%, thought he was the first prime minister of Israel. Not correct. And on it goes. But the good news is that once they understood what was meant by the chant, a lot of people changed their mind, because they do actually think they believe in 2 states there and not what that chant would suggest. So what do you make of the lack of knowledge and then the eye-opening effect of this survey?
Well, I can see if someone wants to say, guys, why is this a good martini? It indicates that there is a just stunning level of ignorance on college campuses about basic facts of the Middle East and what the conflict is about. Also, for everyone who's feeling really old because Greg just mentioned that Yasser Arafat died nearly 2 decades ago, blame Greg. Because, it was a few years. No, it was 2020. It was 2004, right?
Yeah, same year Reagan died.
So, all 19 years, okay. But, once people know, and from the very beginning of this crisis, I've pointed out that when you're chanting that, what do you want? That is effectively the borders of Israel. And you want to ask, like, so what do you want the people living there to do? What happens to them? Because we've seen Hamas, the way Hamas wants to deal with them. Hamas wants to kill all of them, including the babies, including the senior citizens, including the women. Like, we know that, their answer, as put rather eloquently, is a second Holocaust. You, college student, you're chanting it. What do you want them to do? And my suspicion is that most people, when they realize that, don't actually want to say, yes, I support the Hamas solution. They may say, I think the Israelis should move somewhere else, which is not a particularly realistic answer. Once they're put that, is 80 of the 80 students who saw the map, 75% changed their mind and said, okay, this is not going to work. And as I pointed out, like, this professor, he's a professor of Israeli studies. He's studied terrorism, radicalism, and public opinion. So this is kind of Professor Hassner's, his ball of wax, his area of expertise. But he's a University of Berkeley political science professor. And what he's doing here is he's seeing what students think, pointing out where what they believe is contrary to, indisputable, verifiable facts, and then attempting to correct them. This is kind of what we want everybody to do. So first of all, like, good for you, Professor Hassner. This is exactly what we need to see more of in the universities. And, like, whenever University, UC Berkeley, there are a bunch of, tree-hugging hippies out there. Well, go figure. There are good professors out there. And we probably should, as much as we are furious with the state of academia, we should not forget that there are good professors in this country who are trying to do the right thing. And I just saw it as part of a big sequence of events just in the last couple of days, from the university professors testifying on the Hill and saying, calling for genocide, it might violate our code of conduct. It might not. There are some contexts where it's okay. No, there is no context in which it's okay. We talked about this a bit last week. Council of American Islamic Relations video came out of their executive director saying how happy he was on October 7th. There's a lot of self-marginalization going on right now. And I can understand why people are upset about this. I'm upset about this too. But I don't think you can look at this and say, these students chanting in the streets, they're well-informed and they really genuinely believe this. Apparently, their support for this is an inch thick, and it's based upon their ignorance. It appears they have come to their conclusion about how this crisis in the Middle East should be resolved, Greg, based on the question of who has a slogan that rhymes. And if pro-Israeli groups want to get it back, you just need another rhyming slogan. And apparently that's what will get these kids to jump on board. I'm exaggerating, but not that much based on this survey. And so, one, that's kind of reassuring. It means that their kids don't actually mean what they're saying. They don't know what they're talking about. And once they actually get informed of the facts, they are not entirely, but much less likely to support this. I think we're seeing an entirely appropriate backlash to what these university professors said. One is already out. There's a lot of pressure on the other two. And I think it should be a cold day in hell before anybody takes CARE's word as meaningful on just about any topic. Because to me, once you've started cheering for the terrorists, you are not someone I ever need to take seriously ever again, unless it's as a potential threat.
Well, the answers, of course, are the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. I'm not sure I mentioned that at the outset, but that's the answer if you're flipping to the back of the book, like you did for those odd-numbered math problems. Let's be honest, it's exactly what you did. The fact that once the students know this, they have a change of heart is good. I wish more professors would do this, and if you quiz your own students and they do this poorly on the test, you might want to reconsider how you present the material, or update how you present the material in your classes. So anyway, happy to start the week off on a positive note in a number of ways. Jim, let's hope the week continues this way. I'm sure we won't have any bumps in the road at all.
Hey, you know what? I'll take this start to the week.
Absolutely. Jim Garrity, National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks so much for being with us today. Do subscribe to the podcast if you don't already, and tell your friends about us as well. Thanks also for your 5-star ratings and your kind reviews. Please keep those coming. Get us on your home devices. All you have to say is play 3 Martini Lunch Podcast. Follow us both on X. He's at Jim Garrity. I'm at Dateline_DC. Have a great Monday, and join us again on Tuesday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.